Hey friends, this is just a super quick run through on parenthetical citations. If it is too brief for you, there's also a recording of a live lesson that I did on parenthetical citations. Yes, it is longer, but if you need a more thorough lesson on parenthetical citations, I definitely recommend that. This is the quick version. If on the calendar there's also a live lesson on parenthetical citations, obviously that's the best thing to do, is to come to a live lesson. But if there isn't something scheduled for right now, these are some options, as is of course calling me and asking for help. Okay, anytime you do research, you need to have a works cited list and parenthetical citations. So what am I talking about? Good question. I wonder that all the time. They're also called internal citations. They document the sources of specific facts. If you ever listen to debates on television with presidential debates, you listen to people speaking, you're like, oh, where'd they get that information? I'm not so sure about that. Your parenthetical citations, your internal citations can give the source of specific facts. Anything that is your opinion or your analysis, you do not need to cite. They occur at the end of your facts from a source, or at the end of a paragraph if you have an entire paragraph that comes from a single source. They should match your works cited list. For everything in your works cited list, there should be parenthetical citations. There should be a one-to-one correlation between your parenthetical citations and the stuff in your works cited list. What does that mean? Your works cited list is literally a list of the works, the websites, the articles, the newspapers that have been cited in the paper. Your works cited list is a summary at the end of the paper of your parenthetical citations, so they should match. You use parenthetical citations obviously for quoted material, but also for paraphrased material, okay? Any stuff that isn't out of your head, you have to cite. What do they look like? That's a good question. I know, that's why I ask it. So back when the earth was cooling and I was in high school, we mostly used books, magazines, and newspapers for research. So stuff had authors and life was easy. Yeah, we had authors. And so we would take the author's last name and the year of publication. And at the end of the sentence, but before the period, in parentheses, we would put the author's last name and the year of publication. That is awesome when there's an author. And in a minute, we're going to talk about what to do when there isn't an author. Okay, I know there isn't always an author. Sometimes there isn't a year of publication. This will sometimes happen with websites. If there isn't a year, then you are free to leave it out. Okay, and if there weren't a year of publication for this particular item, then I would just have Jones in parentheses and then the period, okay? Let's talk about what we do when we don't have an author, because I know that is sometimes going to happen with our websites. Here are a couple of items from websites where there's no author. So I guess I should have pointed out to you already that what we have here are items from our works cited list. You must do your works cited entries first, okay? So here we have Magna Carta English translation, British Library, etc., etc. Then we have Magna Carta from history.com. And here I have the sentence that I wrote in my fantastic paper that I'm writing about the Magna Carta. Don't ask me why. I don't know why I picked Magna Carta. It must have been on my mind. Sometimes you just wake up thinking about Magna Carta. Okay, in order to understand Magna Carta, you need to understand feudal society. So true. All right, before the period, I open up my parentheses, and what I do is, there's no author. I put what comes at the beginning of the citation, Magna Carta English translation. Hey, Pence, why don't I put the British Library? Because that's kind of like the author in this situation. Yeah, that is such a good point, but here's the thing. If you have a works cited list that has 40 or 50 entries, which when you're in college could happen, the reader wants to be able to find the source easily. And the way they find your source easily is by looking down the left-hand side of your sources, which will be in alphabetical order. No one wants to look down the middle. They want to easily look down alphabetically at the left-hand side. All right? That's why we go with what is at the beginning of the citation, not with some weird thing that's in the middle. Don't pick something that's in the middle. That is difficult. All right? So, Magna Carta, English translation. Hey, Pence, I see a year over here. Why didn't you use it? Okay, that's a really good question. That is actually not the year of publication. That was the year that I accessed it. As you know, with websites, we also include the year of access. Good question. You are so smart. Here's another example. King John granted these liberties to avoid a possible rebellion from his barons. Another great sentence. Thank you. Open the parentheses. What comes at the beginning of the citation? Magna Carta. I write it exactly as it appears in the quotation marks. I close the parentheses. I end my sentence with a period. It is important that I write these as they appear. Here it's important because I need to write Magna Carta English translation, or these two could end up extremely similar. What if they had the same name? What if both web pages were called Magna Carta, which in this case could happen. I mean, they are so similar. In that case, I would continue to the next part of the citation, the British Library history.com, just to make that differentiation. We want to communicate clearly. All right? So that's the very basics. If this is not enough for you, please give me a call or take a look at the longer live lesson that I have recorded and on that lessons and tips link on the announcements page, okay? The best thing to do is just to try. It is in trying that we get better at anything. I hope this was a useful 8 minutes. Have a wonderful day. Happy citing.